Yes. Today's session is on the at-risk registry, and we're going to walk you through that process of putting what this is about, putting patients in, taking them out, and updating them on a regular basis. Well, first of all, let's start off by saying that the at-risk registry is actually required for all home health and hospices licensed in the state of Louisiana. You are required to use this system to communicate the needs of your patients with regards to assistance for evacuation to emergency managers in their parish. It is highly encouraged and recommended for home health and hospices throughout Mississippi as well. The reports that we send out each week go out to all of the emergency managers in all 64 parishes and 83 counties in Louisiana and Mississippi. The registry fulfills your obligation that you find in your conditions of participation for home health and hospice to be able to inform your emergency manager of their need for special assistance with regards to evacuation, if there's an evacuation order called for their neighborhood. It keeps the emergency managers aware of the special needs of your patients. And I want to say and write out, this is not a registry for any nursing home patients. Nursing homes have their own emergency plan that they follow. So if you have a hospice patient in a nursing home, please do not put them into this registry. The nursing home has its own protocols and processes for evacuation. So, who do you put into this registry? This was designed for home health and hospice patients in Mississippi and Louisiana who are living alone and don't have a caregiver, and they're unable to evacuate themselves. Or the second category of patient is the patient who has a caregiver, but that caregiver is either mentally or physically not capable of carrying through on an evacuation order. There's a third category, and that's patients and families that can't afford to evacuate. It was estimated prior to the pandemic that a 3-day evacuation for a family of four ran about $750. I'm sure after the pandemic, that has gotten to be even more expensive. So it's probably over $1,000. If you're a social worker or your uh, patient clinical person determines that that family simply can't afford that, you can put them into this registry. And then finally, the last category is that patients who were refusing to evacuate. You know, stubborn patients who feel that they can ride out every storm. When you identify those patients, they can go into this registry. Now, before they can go into the registry, it's real important that you get their consent. They have to sign a consent form, and we have the templates for Louisiana and Mississippi in this particular hyperlink. So after today's session, I will take these slides and I will put them in next week's calendar invite for next week's call, and you will be able to draw down this PDF, and all of these hyperlinks will work. So there's a consent form for a template for Louisiana, one for Mississippi. We also have a template for the evaluation form. This is the form that allows you to collect the information that we're going to need for you to put into the registry. All of these documents can be found on our website, the LMHPCO.org website, lmhpco.org. That's Louisiana, Mississippi Hospice Palliative Care Organization.org. You can go there, you can go to the professional tab, and then click on emergency preparedness, and it'll take you to a whole page of resources for hospice and home health agencies with regards to emergency preparedness. This is what the at-risk registry evaluation and consent forms look like. And they're in a Word document so that you can take that and turn it into your own PDF so you can put your logo on it as well. two things I want to point out. One main thing about the consent form. You see the second line. Let's see. The last line of the first paragraph. It begins, although inclusion, and I want to make sure that you understand this because there may be some confusion by some of your nurses or social workers, whoever is getting this consent form done. It says, although inclusion in the at-risk registry does not guarantee that my transportation needs will be met in an actual emergency, my inclusion in the registry provides emergency managers awareness of my current health and living situation, as well as the opportunity to more accurately prepare for emergency situations in the parish. If you're in Louisiana, in the Mississippi, it says county. It's really important that patients realize that nothing is guaranteed in an actual emergency. And that the best thing for them to do is make their own plans if there's an evacuation order called. If they're relying upon the parish to do that, or the county to do that, they need to realize that plans are in place for lots of different scenarios, depending upon when they get into the registry and whether or not they're included in the plans for that parish. In an actual emergency, all bets are off. Things happen. Decisions are made in real time, and sometimes that decision is that they can't get to that patient at the particular time that the emergency is called. So I just want to make sure that no one's promising transportation, that this registry is a tool to allow managers, parish and county emergency managers to better plan for an emergency, but it doesn't guarantee transportation. Very important. And it's a very important point that you need to make with your patients and your families, that they are responsible for their safety, their ultimate safety. Okay. And that's why it's important that we work very hard to get family members involved in terms of taking care of family members, or maybe a church parish or a civic organization or someone other than relying upon the parish or the state to take care of patients in an actual emergency. The other thing is the registry, the evaluation form. If you complete that evaluation form, you have all of the information that you're going to need to do the input into the actual online registry. This is the information. It's just one page of information that we collect. So the information is transmitted every Friday morning at 7 a.m. Emergency managers throughout Louisiana and Mississippi receive an email report from us listing all of the patients in their prospective parish or county who have been placed into the registry and who have been identified because they've been updated that week as actually needing assistance in evacuating if there's an evacuation order called for their particular neighborhood or their particular address. We want to make sure that the information that we're sending to emergency managers is as accurate and as correct as possible, and therefore it is important that the weekly update be done. With regards to hospice, about 25% of all of our patients that are enrolled into hospice are dead within 7 days. Half of all of our patients are deceased within 30 days. And so the last thing we want to do is send the names of deceased patients to emergency managers, especially when there's an actual emergency declaration. That's why we need your help with the update, doing that weekly update. We send out a weekly update to every one of our users, reminding them that before the close of business on today, we ask you to click here and do that update. The update is simple, but it has to be done, and it has to be done in a certain order in order for it to be effective. We're going to get into that in just a second. If you're not receiving this update but would like to, please contact me, and we'll be more than happy to include you in the update. So every month, I mean, every Thursday morning, we send out that update to all of the providers who are using the at-risk registry, and we send it out roughly to over 1,000 patients. I mean, 1,000 providers, email addresses. Because it's coming out of 1,000, some of you who are not seeing it in your inbox, it may be in your spam folder, and you have to go into your spam folder and give it permission to get to your inbox. Others, it may not be even getting to your spam folder. There may be a firewall that your agency's IT people have put in place to stop things that look like spam. You have to get with IT and ask them to allow that particular email to get through their firewall in order to get to you. It's possible, it's done all the time, but it does take some work to make sure that it gets in there. So if you're not seeing the registry reminder every Thursday morning, please check your spam folder. And if you're still not seeing it, contact me to make sure that we are sending it to you. But if we're sending it to you and it's still not getting to your spam folder, you may have to go IT in order to get this resolved. As you can see, on the last time I put these numbers in, over 800 people were not opening that email. For whatever reason. Maybe it's in their spam folder, maybe it's even before the firewall, but that's what we're trying to clear up. I went into the registry this morning to take a look at what's in there. And this morning, as of this morning, and what will probably happen over the coming couple of days, because those reports will go out on Friday, we have 92 hospice agencies that currently have over 1,500 patients in the registry, 800 of which have been identified as needing assistance. There's the other 400 that they're in there, but we don't know why they're in there, because they were not updated last week, or they haven't been updated for some time. We'll get further into that in a little bit, but so we also have 93 home health agencies that have 964 patients, 776 of them needing assistance, but there's still 180 of them that are in the registry who are either they weren't updated or they're no longer on service. We don't know why. They're still in the registry, but those 188 home health patients and 461 home hospice patients, they were not included in last week's report because they had not been updated. We also have 75 patients in the registry who are missing a parish or a county assignment, and therefore their information's in the registry, but it's not being transmitted because the parish or the county was not assigned to that patient. The agency actually has to click on the parish and make sure, or the county, and make sure that that county is the correct county for that patient's information to be transmitted to. There are 88 patients in the registry who are currently missing a zip code. Zip codes are very important in terms of GPS and first responders being able to find particular addresses. That's why we ask you to please make sure that you're including the right county, the right parish or county, and as well as the zip code. We've also run into an issue where some of the parishes need a date of birth on that patient. They will use the date of birth as a marker, as an identifying, patient identifier in the system. And without the patient's birth, they don't have the information they need in order to assign, a patient number to, that will allow it to enter into their bigger system. So we need you to fill in the date of birth on every patient. The format for that is, you'll see it's just a bunch of zeros across there. We need you to put in the year first. The first four zeros are for the year. The second set of zeros are for the month. And the third set of zeros is for the day. So it's year, month, date format. Any questions so far from anyone? Please feel free to stop me at any point if you have a question about anything that I'm saying. Okay, we'll go on. So I mentioned that we had 92 patients, hospice agencies using the system. We have 34 hospices that currently have a total of 461 patients in the registry who were not updated last week. And they weren't updated last week, and some of them haven't been updated for several months. So the question is, why do you have these patients in the registry if they're no longer on service, or if you're not going to do the weekly update? This is my weekly naughty list of those agencies, those hospice agencies who have currently have patients in the registry, but they did not update them at least last week, and for some of them for several weeks and several months. So if you're on my naughty list, the ones that are highlighted in yellow, those are programs that are located in Mississippi. It's just to make a distinction between states here in terms of highlighting. But if you see your name on this list, and you don't understand why your patients aren't being updated because you're doing weekly update, or if you see one of your branch is listed on this list and they're not on today's call, please call them and let them know that that hospice made my naughty list, and we're trying to clear up the 461 patients that are in the registry, but they're not going anywhere, and finding out why are they in the registry, or are we doing the update correctly? Okay. So that's on the hospice side. On the home health, we've seen some improvement over the past several weeks on both sides, but we saw some dramatic improvement this week on the home health side, because this week we only have 32 home health agencies that have a total of 188 patients in the registry who were not updated last week or for several weeks prior to that. Again, if your name is on this list, and you don't understand why your name is on this list, if you think that you're doing the update, for some reason the update did not happen, even though you thought it was going to happen, that is because there's a particular protocol for doing that update that we're going to get into in just a little while. But if you think you're doing it correctly and still not coming in, you still appearing on this list, please give me a call and I'll be more than happy to walk you through the process and see what's actually going on. So, like I said, every week, every Friday morning at 7 a.m., we send out reports, over 1,000 reports now, to emergency managers and state and regional and district and the county managers, telling them about the patients, your home care and hospice patients that would need their assistance in the event of an emergency. In Louisiana, we're now sending out regional reports for each of the 9 regions. Some work with everyone takes these reports and they do different things with it. And so it's important that your agency know how that data is being used. Some work within a regional structure or a district structure, others do not. They work inside of the parish or the county exclusively. So we send the information, and emergency managers, they have to determine the best use of that information. So We're going to go ahead and we're going to I'm going to walk through um, putting patients in, taking them out, and also doing the update. It's simple to use. It requires a login. You have to have login credentials in order to get into this HIPAA approved or HIPAA compliant system. And then each user has a unique, each office has its own unique login. You log in, you can put patients into the registry using the information that's found on that evaluation form that we talked about earlier. And then at the end, yeah, on Thursdays, we send out that a reminder. We ask that you do the update. And the update is very simple. You simply log in, hit the bulk edit button at the top, put check marks in the little boxes by each name on each line for every patient that you want to keep on service for another 7 days, and then you hit submit. When you hit submit, the system automatically starts counting for 7 days and gives your patients 7 days of coverage at a time before it goes back to needing assistance and it says no. We want to make sure that the information that we're sending, again, is accurate and correct. That's why we require this weekly update. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to ask, can everyone see the switch of screen to the at-risk, the WatchPoint at-risk login? I just clicked on the button and I just want to make sure that everyone's seeing the right screen. Are you seeing my PowerPoint or are you seeing the WatchPoint at-risk registry? If someone would just let me know. You have to unmute yourself for me to hear.
I see the PowerPoint, Jamie.
You still seeing the PowerPoint. Okay, I have to stop sharing and then sharing again. Sorry. Share. Okay. Now you can see, hopefully now you see WatchPoint at-risk registry, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so when you get the email from us on Thursdays and you click there, it's going to take you to this site right here. So you're going to put your unique username and passcode. Password. And then when you put in that, you would simply hit submit. And it's going to take you to your registry. And the registry is just like a great big Excel spreadsheet. So when you want to put in when you want to put in a new patient, all you do is click on add new patient. Now you see I have two lines here that say add new patient. Rather than adding a new line, all I'm going to do is put my cursor in that line and I'm going to double click that line to activate that line. Now I can go through and I can put in the patient's last name, their first name. There's a drop down in terms of gender. You want to pick the right state because when you pick the state, it's going to give you only the options for that state's county or parish. So you want to then you want to make sure that you're picking the right parish. In Orleans Parish, so I'm going to pick Orleans. Then you'll see the next is the weight. Weight is very important. Emergency managers need to know what the patient's weight is in order to know how many how many people they may need to send for that transport. We have had situations where we've had patients, bariatric patients, 600 and 700 pounds, and, two people just could not manage that. But you want to put in the patient's address as well in the city. And you're going to put in if there's I want to show you also. You see, when you cannot see the complete label, you can move that out. so that you can read what that label is. So the address of the cross streets, what type of residence is the patient living in is real important so that they are prepared. If they live in an apartment complex, the name of the apartment complex, the apartment number or lot number, the region for that patient is going to be assigned automatically. The region that you live in. The next thing is the date of birth, and again, this requires that you put in the patient's year first, then the month. Okay, and this person was born today on the 14th. If they have an email address, please put that in there. Next, you want to put in their zip code, like I said, their diagnosis, the primary caregiver's first, let's see, this is primary caregiver. Yeah, their name. This is their phone number. You can go through and you can spread these out. If they have a mobile number, please grab that. We want the next of kin's name, their phone number, and their next of kin's address as well. We want the physician name, phone number, and fax, along with the DME supplier's name, their phone number, the pharmacy name, the pharmacy phone number. Don't worry about the modification. This is a timestamp that every time you do anything with the patient, it's going to put a timestamp on that entry. We need to know what type of transportation that patient will need, whether it's any means that they could send a car, they could send a truck, they could send a van, they could send a boat, they could send a bicycle. The patient just needs a way out. Paratransit means that they are in a wheelchair and they would need a wheelchair lift. An ambulance is the patient is bedridden and would need an ambulance. State law requires that if emergency managers do something with patients, that they also do something with their pets. So they do need to know ahead of time, are their pets in the home? Yes or no? And finally, they want to know, why are you putting this patient into this registry? Is it because they're living alone? The caregiver's incapable of carrying through on an evacuation order? Is it a financial reason, or are they simply refusing to evacuate? Because that can determine an emergency manager's next steps. There are some parishes, some counties have resources to offer patients that have a financial need in terms of evacuation. So, and if it's because they're refusing, then emergency managers can go out and, maybe talk with those families and try to persuade them to actually evacuate. Then you have is the patient O2 dependent? You would put a check mark in there. Are they on a ventilator, infusions, tube feeding? What's their mobility status? Are they ambulatory, or do they just need assistance, or are they bedbound? Whether or not they're in a wheelchair, any special care supplies, or any other DME equipment that they may need. And at the end, you're going to see post. Post is the same as save. Once you hit post, that patient's information is saved, as it were. Let's put their name here. So, and we're going to go ahead and save that again. So once you do this, that information stays in there. Every Thursday, we send you a reminder to do the update. To do the update means that in doing the update, that patient's information will be transmitted the next day to the emergency manager that you've assigned them. The emergency manager to the parish or county you've assigned them. Okay? To do that, there are three things that you have to do. You simply log in like you would, come into the system. You hit the bulk edit button first. Then you go and you put a check mark here, wherever in any patient that you want to put onto that report. And then once you do that, you hit submit. Once you hit submit, you're done. You're done for the next 7 days. The system takes over from there, and it will include those patients in all reports that go out over this next 7 days. I want to advise you. Usually, people think that if I click there, it sends check marks all the way down. Notice it did not. That's because we disabled this because we want this to be a deliberate action on the part of the agency to make sure that that patient is alive and still in need of service. So you hit submit and it's done. And once you hit submit, that's when the algorithm starts counting off 7 days. So you can do it every day if you want. You only have to do it once a week. Some other things I want to show you, some features for you to consider. Over here to the right-hand side, you see this little black X. If you press that button, it's going to produce for you a spreadsheet of all your patients and all the information that you put in here so that you can keep that. That's a little handy file that you might want to save. Also, you have some other you can choose reports to be generated about your patients in terms of things that you may want to keep on file. Anyone have any questions before we leave this actual demonstration? Oh, I should say over here, you'll see that there's an FAQ on the right-hand side. That's for frequently asked questions about the registry. And there's also a support tab. If you press that, it's going to ask you for some basic information, what problems you're having with the system. And as soon as you hit submit, that note comes to me, and you should be hearing from me within an hour or a couple of hours. I try and these are usually a priority in my mailbox, and I try and get to them as quickly as possible. Any questions from anyone before we go back to our PowerPoint? Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing that and go back to the PowerPoint and share. Okay. So I want to remind everyone, I told you about if you go to our website, www.lmhpco.org. That stands for Louisiana, Mississippi Hospice and Palliative Care Organization, lmhpco.org. You can hit the professional tab, and then you can go to emergency preparedness, and there are a lot of tools and resources that you might find helpful, including a list of all of the recordings that we've been doing with regards to the different regions, the coastal regions of Louisiana and Mississippi with emergency managers. You may want to use those recordings as in-services with your staff. There's also resources in terms of conducting tabletop exercises with your staff. And there's also resources for your patients and families that you might want to use with them. If you have any questions, you can always call me at 504-491-6133 or drop me an email at jboudreau@lmhpco.org. And we're going to finish up by asking you, what issues have you been facing with regards to the at-risk registry, if any? Okay. Okay, we have one when we have a patient that is in the registry but goes to a facility for respite, which is only 5 days. Would you go select no on those 5 days? Will this trigger the listing not being completed or update? I hope to explain. I explained it right. Correct. So let me put it to you like this. If you have a temporary situation where a patient's going to be out part of the week or not, you want to make sure that they're being updated that week because, you know, we pray that no disaster or emergency declaration is going to be called for their neighborhood. But if it is called and they're back at their home, you want them included in that pickup. If they are leaving your service area for an extended period of time, maybe they're going on vacation for a month, maybe they're moving, then you and then they're coming back. In that sort of scenario, you would leave them in and not list them for those particular weeks. But you need to remember that the way the registry is being used is eh, is in the preparation. They're looking at the total numbers. They're looking at where those patients are in general, so that they have emergency plans and protocols in place for whatever the case may be. So I don't know if that's explaining or if that's answering your question, but if it's for some sort of short respite like that, I would keep them, I would say yes, unless they're going to be there for, an extended period of time for a couple of weeks, maybe in a rehab facility. If they're in a rehab facility, I would keep them off the record, off the registry while they're in that rehab facility, because that rehab facility is responsible for their evacuation if there's something that happens while they're um, in the rehab center. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question? Yes, thank you. This is not a science. As providers, you have to help emergency managers figure out what to do with these patients at home, um, and how to best help in an actual emergency. So use your judgment. If when we're in the peak of hurricane season, I would keep everybody in the registry that would need assistance. If it's outside of hurricane season and they're going on vacation or they're going into a rehab center for some period of time, may want to keep them off of the registry for that period of time. But you know, things just happen with regards to the tropics right now, and it looks like things are beginning to warm up a little bit in terms of a little bit more activity. I do want to put a plug in. Next week, we will have some of the meteorologists from NOAA, National Organization of Aeronautics. No. Uh, anyway, they're the weather folks that run the Weather Bureau, and they're going to be on with us to talk about an updated forecast for our hurricane for the Gulf with regards to this hurricane season. So make a point of joining us next week for that particular session. We'll get better insights as to what we might expect over the coming month with regards to the peak of this hurricane season. Is anyone having any issues with the registry? Any other issues with the registry? As always, there are these recorded sessions that ESF 8, GOSEF have posted for us that are available to hospices and home health agencies to use. These are the recorded sessions. These have all taken place already. So these are the links to those recordings. Like I said, next week we will have an update on the tropical forecast from NOAA. It will happen at 1 o'clock. Any questions before we sign off? Well, I want to thank you for your time and your attention. And in the meantime, stay safe. Hopefully, this hurricane season will continue as it has in the past, and we will not be in anyone's path this particular year. Take care. We'll see you next week.